We've detected apps on your mobile device that pose a potential security risk. This has caused the app to shut down to protect your accounts. At the moment, you're unable to access mobile banking on this device because of FUTO Keyboard, which is, by the way, an app that Louis Rossmann promoted because he once worked for FUTO. To restore access to your mobile banking app, you can turn off accessibility for these apps. Or switch to device default keyboard, which why the fuck would I want to do that? Because FUTO Keyboard is fucking amazing. Or remove the apps from your device. Please update your apps regularly to maintain optimal security and performance. For further assistance, please visit HSBC Singapore and there's a link there that links to a page on malware scams. How's it going, everyone? I'm sitting here in the dark because there's something that I want to show you on my phone that highlights what I want to talk about in this video, but the reflections just got too irritating, so that's why the lights are off. If you've watched any of my previous videos before or you're one of the 200 people currently subscribed to this channel, which by the way is a milestone that we just hit last week, thanks for subscribing by the way, you will have noticed that Louis Rossmann is a huge motivator for me to have started this channel in the first place. For those people who don't know who Louis Rossmann is, he is a MacBook repair technician turned consumer rights advocate. There's a lot that he covers about how the average consumer gets fucked over a lot. But my problem with that is, despite having watched Louis for literally 10 years now, is that his content, like a lot of YouTubers, is extremely American-centric. So he covers a lot of shit that happens in America, how consumers get fucked over in America, and he does cover Europe and Australia from time to time. One of the things that I feel Louis doesn't cover enough, or one of the places at least, is Southeast Asia. I believe he's talked about Singapore and the driving surveillance that the police used once to apprehend this lady. And he's covered Malaysia twice in recent times about how the ISPs in Malaysia are doing this DNS fuckery that screws over people's privacy and security, yada, yada, yada. But he doesn't, that's just a tiny iceberg of how consumers get fucked in Southeast Asia. Now, the reason why this is important, even if you live in America or you live in Europe or Australia and you don't care what happens in Southeast Asia, it's just a nice place that you want to go to, like Thailand or Indonesia for your freaking summer vacation, you should be paying attention as well, because a lot of the shit that Louis talks about on his channel about how people get fucked over and how consumers have the possibility of getting fucked over even more through all these different things that the companies could implement in the future are already happening in many shapes and forms in Southeast Asia. And today I'm going to show you a prime example that's focused on how companies want to take control of the phone that you bought and you own through various means. One of those things that companies are doing, which is a pretty straightforward thing, is they're trying to make people download their apps. So when you go to a place like Luckin Coffee, which is a China competitor, Starbucks wannabe, that is extremely popular in Singapore and Malaysia, you cannot order a coffee, at least in Singapore, without downloading the Luckin Coffee app. Yeah, so you can't go to the physical, they have a physical store where you actually go to pick up the coffee, but you cannot order any coffee, nor can you pay at the cashier, at the counter, in person. You have to use their app. You have to download their app. There is no website as of right now, April 28th, 2025, where you can go to order and pay for a coffee. It has to be their app, which is the forced download experience that they're pushing onto everyone in Southeast Asia especially. So the app doesn't do anything that's special that you can't do on a website, ordering something and then going to pick it up. Aside from the fact, of course, that they can send you all these annoying ass push notifications to blow your phone up with advertising, which is of course what they love to do, especially in Southeast Asia, where companies have zero respect for you as a consumer, so I've made a video in the past that I will link down in the description below, where Nando's in Singapore and CIMB Bank refuse to respect the opt-out button that they've provided to their consumers. So I've opted out of this bullshit in the past, but they keep sending me promotional emails still after I've opted out. They don't fucking care because there's no legal implications in Southeast Asia, in a lot of these countries that might be on paper, right? I say no legal implications as in there might be laws against like spam and all this shit, but they're not enforced. And if and when they're enforced, these companies get like a slap on the wrist. Like there's these companies that I've talked about in that video that leaked data of their customers and they got fined a tiny amount in proportion to the profits that they bring in every single year. These companies don't fucking care. They want to spam the shit out of your phone. Okay, so these companies are taking baby steps at this point in time, but I'm sure they'll change in the future as time passes by. There'll be more and more companies which will mandate you to download and use their apps in order to do business with them as time moves on. You can be absolutely sure of it. Luckin Coffee is just the first example, but they're not going to be the last company who's doing this, especially companies from China, which of course love surveillance. They love intrusion into the space of the regular person, of the customer, and they love cashless because there's no other better way to track your movement in addition to your location. They also want to track what you're doing in terms of what you're buying and all that stuff. I'm pretty sure we'll see a lot more examples, especially out of China, who of course have their operations outside of China as well. Now, the next level of fucking over consumers already exists in another form, which is after they've forced you to download their apps and start using them, they're also going to try to get you to do what they want on the phones that you own. A prime example of that are the banks in Singapore. So recently, as of 2024 or 2023, I don't remember the exact year. I'm going to paste a screenshot of the news story over here. Banks have started checking your phones for unauthorized, potentially malicious apps that may be installed from scary third-party places like F-Droid, for example, which is the unofficial app store of choice for many Android users who want to install stuff that sometimes is not available on the official Google Play Store, or through APK Mirror, which is a place where you can download install files for old versions of different apps that are available on the Google Play Store. The reason why you want to do that is that there's a lot of apps nowadays which are going through this enshittification process where they're removing things from the UI, they're removing features, they're making functions more crippled, they might be introducing more microtransactions, more DLC into the fucking app that makes you pay for this, that, and the other and nickel and dime you to death. There's a lot of valid reasons you want to download these apps from places outside of the official store, because the official store only offers whatever they approve and they only offer the latest version. Same thing goes with iPhones, where Apple has recently mandated to allow side loading of apps from outside of the App Store. So now consumers who own iPhones in Europe can download apps from places outside of the official Apple App Store. And I don't think this functionality is enabled for anyone who is outside of the EU, because fuck you, that's why Apple was only mandated by the EU to do that for EU people. So that's what they're going to do, maliciously comply. And that same problem that I'm about to show to you that currently plagues mostly Android users in Southeast Asia is going to affect you as well. If you're on an iPhone, just like what Louis Rossmann has said a couple of times, like, don't be the one laughing at the other side just because they're the ones facing the problem, because there will come a day where the companies will fuck you over as well. And the brand that you're using that was originally not affected by the problem is going to do the exact same bullshit that you laughed about that wasn't your problem. So without further ado, I'm going to show you what this whole thing is about. So now the first thing that you're going to notice over here is that I have the HSBC Singapore app, which is installed on my Android phone, as the prime example. All banks in Singapore do this, by the way. This is just a prime example. I'm going to click on this icon and I'm going to show you the kind of step 0.1 of how these companies want you to do whatever the fuck it is that they want you to do on your phone that you own. So I don't know if you can see clearly enough, but it says over here that your app is out of date and you have to update it. So that's step number 1. They want for your security to update the app if it's not on the latest version, so they can push out whatever fuckery that they want to do onto the latest version. Because if you try to circumvent the app checking, the intrusion onto your phone, that entire process that was introduced on newer versions of the app, they're going to make you still get that new version so they can push their intrusion onto your phone anyway, by saying that your old app no longer can work until you download the latest version. So that's exactly what they're trying to do over here. I'm going to click update and it is going to show me a couple options. I'm going to click the App Store to go update it. And as you can see, there's the option to update it. Let me just do that. And we'll wait for just a couple of seconds over here for it to update and install. And we're going to get to the marvelous part in just a second. 100% of 66.74 megabytes. And it's grayed out now. I believe that we will see the open button soon. There it is. I'm going to click the open button and look at what it says now. Check it out. Look at this. If you can't read it, I'm going to read it, what it says over here for you. I'm going to also take a screenshot of that. It says, we've detected apps on your mobile device that pose a potential security risk. This has caused the app to shut down to protect your accounts. At the moment, you're unable to access mobile banking on this device because of FUTO Keyboard, which is, by the way, an app that Louis Rossmann promoted because he once worked for FUTO until he resigned back in February this year. FUTO is a company that creates different applications that are consumer friendly, that protect your privacy, that don't phone home. So the keyboard is one of those things that I use because I enjoy using the voice to text function without the keyboard uploading my fucking voice to the cloud for everyone and their mother in Google to hear. So this app is in no way, shape, or form malicious. And if it is, you can go heckle Louis Rossmann because he's the one who's advocating the protection and rights of consumers. I don't think he's a person to fuck anyone over, nor are the folks in FUTO who he used to work for. So to restore access to your mobile banking app, you can turn off accessibility for these apps. Or switch to device default keyboard, which why the fuck would I want to do that? Because FUTO Keyboard is fucking amazing. Or remove the apps from your device. Please update your apps regularly to maintain optimal security and performance. For further assistance, please visit HSBC Singapore about, and there's a link there that links to a page on malware scams. That's right, folks. So you cannot, this is what happens when you click on close. Let's click on close over here. That's it. It goes back to the App Store. So when I click open, it shows the same error message again. When I click close, it takes me back to the App Store, which is the previous page that I was on. So I think this example speaks for itself. There's no further elaboration that I need to do, other than the fact that this is just one of many things that companies do outside of America, Europe, Australia to fuck over consumers. I like to think of Southeast Asia as a place that is kind of cutting edge on fucking over the people, because there's a lot of stuff that I've noticed, especially after I moved back to this part of the world in the last few years, that is really ahead of its time compared to some place like America, where people tend to put up more of a struggle, people complain more, people are more strong-willed, as in they won't be forced to do certain things that they don't agree with. In Asia, especially Southeast Asia, wow, it's like night and day, man. Like people bend over backwards like no other. They love getting bent over and fucked by companies and also the governments, especially in the last 5 years when they were forced to take the thing in order to eat in a restaurant, in order to go to work, in order to keep their job basically, in order to do anything except ride public transportation and walk outside on the sidewalk where it's 30 degrees Celsius, 100 Fahrenheit outside year-round with a chance of thunderstorms, and also visit a hospital. Those 3 things are the only things you were allowed to do from the span of mid-2021 to about mid to late 2022 in places like Singapore, Malaysia, and a few other places like Indonesia as well. They cannot stop fucking people over because the people cannot stop bending over and complying with whatever it is that they're told. So I'm going to end this video over here because I'm on the brink of rolling over to my favorite topic, which I like to talk about, Corona, which I'll talk about in another video. But hopefully this shows you just a little bit of a preview of the many ways that I will also highlight of how companies screw over people bigly in Southeast Asia. And this is why if you live in America, if you live in Europe, if you live in Australia, anywhere that's outside of Southeast Asia, you need to be pushing back. Because I would love for people in Southeast Asia to be pushing back against this bullshit. But as of like what history has shown me, especially having grown up in this area for a good part of my life as a kid, I'm not sure that I'm very confident in people being able to push back, especially with the recent, 2020, 2021 thing. That's it for today, and I hope you learned something. See you all in the next video. Goodbye.